first sculpture I did probably was a relief sculpture of like an apple. My dad's a chainsaw sculptor, and so the first kind of step was getting out the chisels and carving out a design in a little piece of wood. It's probably about 8 inches by 8 inches, about 2 inches thick, and you just draw it out and start chiseling around the edges. And that's probably one of my first sculptures in a pear too. I did a pear. My first real sculpture, I don't know if it's real, but when I was 13 also, my dad, since he did chainsaw sculpture, he just gave me a chainsaw and he taught me how to carve a mushroom, and I just started carving mushrooms. Like 2-foot mushrooms, big mushrooms that you can put out in your garden. So I like to tell all the kids that I like to sell shrooms on the side for a little extra money. So that was my claim to fame when I was little, and that's how I got started. But I didn't decide till after serving an LDS mission that art was what I wanted to do full time or pursue as a career. I was kind of wishy-washy between things, but I knew I wanted to do something creative or making stuff with my hands. And so I've never been a desk job person. I was working with my dad doing sculpture, and we were going to Lake Tahoe and selling there, and I was going to start school, and I needed kind of a regular job to support school. And my brother had mentioned there was a foundry close to where my dad's shop was in Springville called Bear Bronze, and so I went over there and asked for a job, and they turned me down. And then later they sent out a letter looking for employees, and I went over there the first day that it was advertised, and I went and got the job and was their shipping manager for 8 or 9 months. I would watch the guys do the casting, and I'd watch the guys be investing the pieces or dipping the slurry, coating it with ceramic, and I was kind of envious, and I started helping out in the slurry room, and eventually that worked into helping with the casting. And after a couple of months I was put in charge of casting, and so that was exciting because I was actually in the process, but it also kind of puts you under the gun, because if there's anything wrong with the casting, that's kind of where everything has to happen, or else you catch a lot of crap, because you either have to start it over or someone has to weld it up in the welding shop, and it's just a lot of hassle. So it's kind of a stressful position, but that's when I started actually doing something within the process. I consider my first sculpture was I did a bust. I took a Vietnam War history class, and I did a sculpture of a soldier, which was purchased by the college where I was studying. It won the Dean's Award at the school show that year. A lot of my pieces just start as anatomy studies, and I'm just kind of interested in what it looks like, and then I'll just get an idea, and maybe I'll put a chain around his neck, and just kind of just a slow evolution to something. I usually will start out with an idea in my head, like I want to do a little boy pulling up his floaties, or I want to do a Vietnam era soldier, and then I'll just go from there. But sometimes I'll just start doing something, and it just kind of slowly evolves into what it becomes. I consider myself a relatively religious person, and I think those stories are very inspiring to me, and the people were inspiring, and the things that they did, and the convictions that they had. And so it's more of a kind of a telling of their convictions and the things that they suffered. I did a Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John series. I've done the soldier. I did an Indian bust. Most of the stuff I've done right now is busts. I did an Adam and Eve set that are also busts. I did a foundry worker who's kind of mid-torso up. He's, kind of pushing metal into the furnace. Other than that, I'm doing my little boy. He's pulling up little boy at 3 or 4. He's kind of pulling up his floaties before he gets into the pool. And that's a full body. I'm just kind of starting to branch out into full body stuff right now. I've had steam, burns. I've had, as far as injuries, I've had, bronze going down my shoe and giving me 3rd-degree burns. I've had metal explode out of trays and land on my coworker's head. I pulled a huge shell out of the furnace, and we did it by hand back at Bear Bronze, and it was a frog. It was about 22 inches tall, and it was about as big as a real big kid's play ball. You know, it was probably about 18 inches or so in diameter. And I had to bear hug it and pull it out of the furnace. And the furnace is 1,700 degrees. And I was wearing 2 suits to protect me, and I was told later that I was on fire as I pulled it out of the furnace. It seemed like when I met my wife, everything kind of clicked. As far as even my artwork in school, I was just going to school, kind of floating, and taking classes, but nothing real serious, working at the foundry. And when I met my wife, I was offered a job at the school teaching, and that's when I just started finishing my first couple of those first pieces, and so I got some recognition that way. And so everything kind of fell into that same time that I met my wife, same time frame, and so that went really well. And she was excited about what I was doing, and I was excited. And my wife, I think, takes it seriously when I sell something. And when I sell something, you know, it's all well and good, but I really don't know what she thinks deep down inside. Sometimes I almost feel like it's a burden. I'm not really making lots of money right now, and so it's kind of just taking up my time a little bit, since I'm just starting out. But I have a lot to learn, so it's probably not going to be for another probably 3 or 4 years till anything happens. A lot of art, I think, is the process. You know, it's not always having an idea and just going for it, but it's just kind of a slow progression from one thing to another. So it's good to have goals, you know, as far as like a finished piece. But with Samson, I just started working on it. Just felt the desire to sculpt, and just started, and then it just kind of slowly turned into that. And you kind of throw some things like the chain, and, you know, making it look like his hair is a little cropped, a little shorter, like they've just cut his hair. And so you just kind of throw some of these elements into the sculpture that you know, that will match the story.